Tell me, are you ready to find your weird way? Weird was a concept that was spoken of long ago. It meant fate, it meant destiny, it meant your path in life. I'm your host, Dean Bentley, and I am here to explore how you can connect to your own path in life, to know the essence of your own soul, to connect to that single spark that lives within the deepest recesses of your being that says, this is why I am here, to go beyond the limitations, the constrictions of the modern world, and open you to the possibilities and the potentiality of what is possible within this world. Join me as we dive deep on the weird way. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the weird way. It has been a long while, and I want to be honest for a moment. I've been telling myself I would come back and record another episode for some time. Things have been a little bit chaotic in my life, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that shortly. But really, I wanted to jump on as a piece for myself because I know that it's often a story for so many of us that we'll do it one day. We'll do it when everything is aligned, when we have all the things in place. And that was the story I was telling myself here on the weird way. I was like, you know what, Dean? I want to do an intro for season two. I want to do a new artwork for it. I want to make it, new. And there is some truth in that. Like, I want to do that. I want to improve this podcast to give you listeners a better experience and the people here an overall a better experience and put some more intention into that. And what that resulted in was me not recording an episode for some time and just being like, I need to do these other things first. Now, I know myself quite well at this point. I'd like to think so. There's still a lot I don't know, but I know how I operate is I first must start. And once I start, I will do what's needed to be done. But when I say I'll do it after that, I probably won't get to them things. So I'm recording here today as a bit of a permission piece, but also an invitation because perhaps you're not at that spot where you just can jump on and record the podcast if that's what your goal is right now. But perhaps there's something in your own life where it's like, I'll do that then. I'll do it then. Whenever that is, maybe it's after you have the time, you have the money, you have the resources, and there's a little bit of you that knows you've just been putting that off. And I know for me, that happens in life. Our lives get very full. We have a lot happening. Life just seems to get busier and busier in this day and age. And this is where making it a priority is one of the most important things we can do of actually being like, I need to do this then. So I'm here because this is a priority for me because I know how much I love this. I know how much all of you have shared, how much you've got out of this so far. And I really, really appreciate you all sharing that with me. So I'm back. I'm back here to record, to open this space again and share a little bit of what's been going on and also share a little bit of the direction in where I'll be taking the weird way come season two. So, for all you that don't know, Christmas Eve, the Christmas night, so the eve of Christmas, I was in a tornado, the roof got taken off my house, and things have been a little bit allowing myself to land and come back in to normalcy, I will say. I've had to move house, the house is going under repairs, and just finding myself landing, allowing some time and space for me to ground back in and also give myself space to regulate my nervous system and come back to a full capacity because I noticed there was some shock, there was some trauma, and it took quite a little bit to work through them layers. So, though I'm saying I've been meaning to do this for some time, there has been like this little bit of like, Dean, and this is a lesson for myself to be kind, to acknowledge, hey, that was quite intense for you. You've never been through something like that before. A lot has changed. A direction in business has been open, and you've shifted houses. You've done a lot in that time. You've launched some masterclasses, and you're putting intention and energy into new community. You're building a men's community here in Tambourine. And so this acknowledgement of kindness for myself as well. So that has been really, really beautiful. So one of the things I wanted to come in here to speak to today was this capacity for ourselves to give ourselves space when we're needed, to call ourselves on our own bullshit, and to also get done what needs to be done to move in alignment. And I think this is a conversation that I don't often see in the spiritual space. It's like we want to act in alignment, we want to act in flow. And in that, what often happens is people go into a state of avoidance. They avoid doing what is uncomfortable or what is hard. Now, that is not something I really advocate, because the only way we can be in flow and in alignment is we're willing to confront the things that we don't want to do. This may be scary, it may be confronting, it may ask that we step into something we've never done before. And this is where the growth is. But until a person is willing to do that, they'll get stuck in a limited framework of reality. Because if it's like, I can only do things if they're feeling good, well, that casts off a whole section of reality that you will never experience. And so, what this lesson has taught me, especially this tornado, like it, I just want to share that it's shifted a lot within myself. It's brought up wounds that I thought I healed since childhood, and some deep feelings of unsafety, some layers of dissociation, of not being able to be present in this world, and reminded myself that I can be safe to be here. And what that has done is both expanded my capacity and what I'm able to hold, like in everything I'm creating. There's a lot of energy I'm putting out into the world right now, but it's also reminded me and shown me the importance of regulating my nervous system. This is something I've known for years, but there's been a deeper level of embodiment and discipline and devotion to the self, to being with myself, so I can, show up each morning, meditate, breath work, have a slow morning, get myself in a regulated state, awakened state, so that then I can serve from that place. And what we want to do is ensure the capacity of our nervous system is open. So, for a lot of us, we live in a very hyper stimulating world. We have social media, we have technology, we have a constant input of energy. And this can be very overwhelming for a nervous system. It can be like, oh, I don't know if I have capacity, or I'm feeling very whelmed by life. And you may experience this just in life when you're like, I need to check my phone, I need to do this and do that. And there's just a lot to do. And this is just the state we live in the modern world. So it needs to be our practice and our intention to carve out space and time for just being, for coming back home to the self. Now, what this does is expand the capacity of the nervous system. It expands our ability to hold. So it's okay to be stimulated. It's okay to be in a stress response. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean a constant state of stress. It means you can have a stimulation. Now, stimulation activates the nervous system. This is good. This is actually a growth response. What isn't good is when we're in that constantly, if we're in a constant state of activation, a constant state of stress, that stretches the nervous system. So it stretches it like a rubber band, and it grows, and it looks like I'm holding more and more, which can be good up until a point. But if that doesn't come back to a place where there's an equilibrium, where there's a discharge, where there's a release, where there's a coming home, that will eventually break. This is what happens for a lot of people with burnout, is they stretch and stretch, and it's like, I'm holding more, I'm holding more. And like going on a tangent, this can happen especially in the men's workspace, where men have been like, I need to hold it more. This is a little bit of the shadow that no one talks about, is like, oh, I'm holding, I'm being the pillar, I'm being the mountain, I'm holding it. Yes, but if you don't have a space of release, of relaxation, it isn't actually going to serve truly, because you need to discharge that so you can open up space within the nervous system, within your capacity. This is needed because if you just keep filling it, you won't have room for more. And so, what we want to check in with is, what is our capacity? Are we able to hold this? And can we discharge something so we can actually expand our capacity? Because this is opposite of what a lot of people teach, is it's like do more, do more, do more. And if we're not discharging what we no longer need, we're not building space for new opportunity to come in. I'll talk of this in the sense of business because that's the one I've been operating in. If a person comes to me and their nervous system is very activated and they're wanting to build business and they're wanting to grow and they're wanting to make more money, if their nervous system is overactivated, they will not have capacity to receive. So they will not have capacity to receive clients, they will not have capacity to receive money, receive love if it comes to a relationship. Like there's no capacity for that nervous system to receive more energy. And people can get stuck in this constant state of doing, I need to hold more and more and more and more. And they think they're being successful, but they're getting stuck in the delusion of busyness. It's this story that I need to be busy to be successful. No, you're probably in a trauma response or a condition response where you learned that to be busy meant validation. It meant to be successful, you thought you had to be busy. That is simply not true. What you actually want to look at is the effectiveness of time spent, the alignment of what your actions are doing. Are you actually working when you say you're working, or are you half present? Are you scrolling on your phone? Are you checking your phone every a minute to see if you got a new message, a new client lead? Like, are you actively working towards something, or are you filling your capacity with useless things? Because for me, this has been the biggest lesson over the last little while is I was addicted to the busyness and I wanted to like be seen as successful. I wanted to get validation for working hard. That was a childhood story growing up. To be a good man and a successful person, you had to work really hard. I wasn't meant to struggle. Life wasn't meant to be a struggle. So I took them conditioned responses and brought them into my business. So this meant me working super long hours. I would wake up at 7 a.m. and start work at 7:30. I would be working until 10 p.m. that night. And it was an effective time. It wasn't me moving much forward, but it was me working in the sense I was there at my computer trying to do something, but there wasn't much effective action because I didn't have capacity, because I wasn't allowing myself to come down. I was stuck on the hamster wheel that I thought I had to do, because I was in that story that to be successful, to be validated, to work, to achieve something, I had to work hard. Because I was in that story, it didn't allow me to come out of that and be like, oh my God, Dean, you're wasting your time. You're not actually getting much done. You're so stressed out. You're on the path to burnout. Your business isn't allowing you to receive because your nervous system's so hijacked by the stress that taking on another client would actually maybe put you over the edge. So you're going to unconsciously sabotage any money that comes in because that would be too much for you. So the lesson was to come back, to pause. And I didn't go about this the easy way. It took me the end of a relationship, like everything falling apart in my business, having to get a job to actually be like, shit, Dean, you weren't acting in alignment. You were looking like you were on purpose, but energetically you weren't aligned with your purpose and where you wanted to go. And this for me is what people aren't talking about. And I had this conversation with myself before this episode. It was like, Dean, no one's talking about what you want to talk about. And I was angry. I was a little bit frustrated. I was like, I want people to be talking about this. I want to be listening to people having these conversations about energetic alignment, about like how important and integral it is to be acting from that place of truth from within ourselves. If we want to build business, if we want to enter relationship, whatever it is, the importance of that and how this affects money, how this affects our ability to show up in the world. And I couldn't find anyone talking about it in the way that I want to talk about it. And this is what I always tell my clients. So it was my own medicine. When we have a complaint with the world, that is ours to solve. That is our medicine for the world. And so here I am being like, Dean, this is the invitation. And why I'm sharing that is because I feel I'm not the only one. You might have your own dream, your own vision, your own complaint. And it's like, I want this to be in the world. I want someone to be talking to this. I want someone to be sharing in this way. Well, that is your invitation. That is the thing that you are being called into and your soul asking you to. And that frustration is actually passion waiting to come online. Because when you're ignoring that, it's not serving anyone and you're being asked to serve. You're asked to step into that. And that may be confronting and it may bring up all the stories about you, but this is part of the process. So, for myself lately, in the last 6 months, I've been changing the direction of my business. If you've been following along, you could probably see it. I'm focusing a lot more on business, on money, of energetics, and a few other things that I've talked about, but I haven't gone too deeply. I- I've been working with clients in this space for the last few years. A lot of my clients were coming to me in a business world. They wanted to be of service. They wanted to share their mission, and that was their path they were walking. But I hadn't allowed myself to step into the identity of I was someone who serves others who also want to serve. It was like a level of that I wasn't ready to claim for quite a while. And I was a little bit nervous. There was imposter syndrome. There was like, who am I to be doing that? And I hadn't reached to that point where I was like, the stepping point where it's like, okay, actually, I'm willing to step into this. And so what's happened as I've stepped into that is that it's brought up each and every story, every wound that keeps me in the old identity because the current level of reality you're experiencing is shaped by your beliefs, your conditions, and your perception of reality. It not essentially comes from a place of truth. You're in a reality tunnel that lives within your own mind. Now, how you perceive that is based on the stories and the conditions that you were told and you've learned over time. Now, when you go to step outside of that reality, what happens is all the stories that keep you trapped, they come up, they come to the surface, they come in strongly. This is why when you go to do something new, you may have a fear response come up. And if you're someone who's been anxious and you go to try something new, their story might be of like, oh, who are you to do that? Or like, people are going to think you're weird. Now, that story arises because it wants to keep you safe. Now, the delusion of that story is that it believes to be safe, you have to be in the current level of reality you know. It doesn't know that you'll be safe when you step into the next level of reality. It believes that it's keeping you safe. So it's trying to serve you, but it is an outdated program. So, what we need to meet these with is love and compassion and acknowledgement because it is a part of ourselves that wants to be seen, it wants to be acknowledged. So, we get to actually say, hey, I see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to protect me. And I'm going to move in the way I know I'm being called to. So, this has been playing out as I've shifted a lot of my direction in business to serving others at this higher capacity. And it's brought up these stories of who am I, the imposterness, all of that. And it's meant I've had to go through the alchemy process. Every time it's like, who are you? It's like, remind myself. Every time there's a deeper wound, because some of this is lives within the somatic body, so it's stored within our body, which may come from trauma, and we actually need to process this. For me, this has meant there's been grief coming up, like pain from childhood, and a lot of things that happened in childhood where I've had to alchemize from feeling unworthy, from not getting the love I desired from as a child. Nothing to do with my parents, just I wanted to be loved in a certain way and they didn't know how to do that. And so that came up, and it was like, oh, I need to give myself love. And it was a worthiness piece of like showing that little boy that he was worthy of receiving this, receiving the love, getting the validation, so he could step into this new iteration of himself. And when people talk about like stepping into a new reality, letting parts of themselves die, that there's often, I think, a misconception in this where people try and cut away the old parts of themselves in a, I need to get rid of this, not in a love and embrace that allows them to dissolve. Now, this is two very different energetics. When we try and cut one off and push it away, it actually lives within the shadows. It stays there and stays in the dark because we haven't learnt to love that part of ourselves. And this will continue playing out until we're able to actually turn and say, thank you, I love you, and bring it into ourselves. And this makes a whole difference. It's something that happens with my clients, is that they've done a lot of the work and they have this perception of, oh, I've got rid of this part, I've let that go. And what they've done is cut it off without actually integrating this. This is a key point of difference because we need to show it love to return to the fullness and the wholeness of ourselves. This is part of the journey of integration, of returning to wholeness. And without this, we'll be forever running from the shadow parts and it will never, never be enough. So on this journey, we'll be meeting the trauma, we'll be meeting the stories that are keeping us in our current level of reality. Now, as we expand, we get to see, oh, that's not actually who I am. Like as I'm moving through this process consciously, I can see, oh, that isn't actually me. That's just a story. Sometimes there's like getting caught in it, but there's a detachment, and it's not a quick process where suddenly you were that person and then you're this person. Like there is a extended duration where you're detaching yourself from that old level of reality and you're moving into the next one. Now, this over time takes place, and there's layers to this where it's like, okay, I've finished with that layer, I'm still working through that layer, and you'll see how this shows up in your life. But as you do this, you'll purify and you'll notice, oh, I'm stepping into a new empowered relationship with myself. I'm relating to myself in a new and different way. Now, this is really what the at work is about. It's an alchemical process. It's changing and purifying the self by removing the stories that generally weren't the self. They came from outside of the self, and we're returning to that place of pureness, of sacredness, and wholeness that is our individual self. Now, this for me is why I'm walking this path, why I'm talking about purpose, about business, because I find it as one of the most predominant tools to help us on that purification. It shows us where we are blocking ourselves, where we're not allowing ourselves. Because if you want to create money, if you want to be of service, if you even just want to advance in your normal job, often the blocks you are experiencing are the same blocks that stop you from experiencing the next level of connection with yourself. And until you're willing to meet these, you'll experience the same problems over and over again. Like for me, this has happened so many times in my business where it's like I'm frustrated, I'm hitting a wall, why? And then I realize, oh, this is actually about me. It's not about how, like, the strategy or what I'm doing in business. No, it's actually that deeper layer. Maybe it's a wound where I'm afraid to be seen in a certain way, where I still don't feel good enough, like, or it's me not still wanting to please people. So of course I'm not going to say the things I want to. So everything begins from the self. This is the 0 point of creation, the self. And if we are creating from a purified vessel, so moving beyond the stories and the limitations, the possibility of creation is so much more. And this is the work, because what we are really tapping into is our divinity, our sacredness, our creator. And we realize when we do this, we are a co creator of this reality. There's a level of responsibility that comes with this, and realizing, oh, I'm here to create something in this world. I can create what I want in this world. Now, that can be challenging for some because that at first means admitting the current level of reality, but it also gives the possibility of stepping in to the next level of reality. And this is what you will need to go on that journey to uncover what's next for you and really see the possibilities before you in this life. Mm. It has felt good to be back, my people. It has felt good to be back in this channel, to be sharing with you again. I'm going to be doing a lot more around alchemy, around this 0 point, around creating in a way that is in alignment with your soul, and to really allow your own weird way to come through in a way that's purified, in a way that's connected to yourself, in a way where you get to share yourself and you know that this is why you're here. So, beautiful people, thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to be back on here. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and let me know what you're thinking, what landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. It helps support this show. Share it with anyone you'd think resonates, and there'll be a few more coming at you. So much love. This is Dean Bentley on The Weird Way, signing out.